In this video,
we're going to roast your English.
I wasn't expecting the roll. All right.
We can go with another one if you want.
No, I am for that. We're going to be looking at a video from Roxana? Yeah.
Your guess is as good as mine.
All right. If we said your name wrong, I'm sorry.
Where's she from? Do we know?
Do not.
I don't want to go off appearance because that can be misleading sometimes. So
I'm thinking Spanish.
Think Spanish? Okay. Then probably Roxana?
So we're going to play some short clips and share our thoughts with what you're doing. The good, the bad, the indifferent? The things that happen.
I am still reading the article.
I didn't get it. I am
still reading the article.
I am still reading the article. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too. So watching out again when a word starts with an S. Trying to remove that S sound, so it's not still, it's just still.
Yeah, and then like sometimes people might just be thinking like an sound, but put it in a place where it makes it less intelligible.
That's actually a good point. So also, if you need that to work, then what I would recommend too is keep the pitch really low, because that way it won't sound stressed. So it's not still. I would go lower, like still. The less noticeable you can make it, the better, to make it sound more natural.
You want to make sure people know that when you're thinking and when you're speaking.
Right, 100%.
I am still reading the article.
Article.
Uh-huh.
The dark L sound. Sounds to me like you're doing like an article. You can really hear what's happening. The breath is really getting blocked compared to the way I would say it. So I would say more article. How would you say it?
Article?
Yeah. It's a little more versus
I agree.
Cool.
You said that better than I would have, so.
Because there are many words that I don't know for sure.
Ooh.
It was up for sure at the end?
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. Words that I don't know for sure. So probably, to know something for sure is fine, but words that I don't know for sure sounds weird to me because you probably mean I don't know completely, I don't know 100%, right? I wouldn't choose that.
I wasn't even thinking from a vocab point of view, yeah. I would probably say from a vocab, I'd probably say like don't really know. Like some words I don't really know. Some words that I'm not familiar with. A native speaker might not even call you out on that.
Right.
But they might just be like, it's kind of one of those things like, oh, that was interesting.
Because there are many words that I don't know for sure.
We're really tightening up on those R sounds. Like for sure, versus like for sure. It's like I would try to say the word sure 3 times. It's like sure. And if you find that you're doing like sure, what that's telling me again is your placement's really high. Like I think in general the placement's high for a lot of this speech. It almost feels like we're kind of talking more from like this part of our mouth for a lot of what we're saying, versus if I'm trying to engage my diaphragm more and speak from a lower position, try to feel a little bit more resonance, try to keep the air flowing. Could also be that the back of your tongue is a little too high. You do want the back of your tongue up for the R, but it's not like because that's really blocking. Versus like sure, for sure. And I think that'll help open it up more.
I think that like behind some of the mouth placement and positioning stuff is like a psychological idea too, that a lot of learners think that they need to take on an English voice. I do the same thing. When I'm trying to speak Spanish, then if I say it like an English speaker, it sounds weird with an accent. So you try to remove the accent by like imitating the sounds that they make. And unfortunately, a lot of people around the world view English speakers as like eating their words and keeping everything in and not opening their mouth a lot. So this could maybe be contributing to that maybe she feels like she has an English voice and she's just like trying not to open her mouth and say some sounds that way because psychologically she thinks that this sounds more English.
Yeah.
Maybe.
This might be controversial. I want to know your thoughts on this.
Okay.
I think American English has one rule.
Okay.
For everything.
I'm excited to hear this.
I think American English wants breath to flow as easily as possible, as unobstructed as possible. Unobstructed is ironically hard to say. I think it explains things like the fast T. Like, because if I say little, I'm super blocking air. But if I say little, I'm allowing so much more air to pass through. I think it explains dark L's. Because again, if I say little, I'm blocking air. But if I use a dark L sound, or little, I'm allowing so much more air to pass. I think it explains like silent T's. I think it explains weakening of like TH sounds, like and then becoming and then. If I only had to give one piece of advice to students, it would be try to say it in a way or say whatever you want to say in a way that allows air to keep moving. And I think that generally is going to steer you in a direction that sounds more American.
That'll definitely make you flow better too,
100%,
because
100%.
that'll appear to people to be more fluent, because that's fluency is about flow and the air flow.
I literally have a video about that. Fluency is not about speed.
Right.
Everyone always thinks, like, whenever you're learning a language, they always think speed. Oh, I need to talk faster. I need to talk faster. The reality is that even, like, Roxana, if I'm saying your name right, you probably actually speak faster than some native speakers do in English. It's not about speed.
Yeah, it's not about speed at all. And I'll push that idea even further. If you are trying to speak really fast, you're going to sound less fluent. You're going to sound weird and awkward by trying to force that fast speech. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, especially the higher level ones. They think that they can speak faster, so that shows fluency and command of the language.
It doesn't.
It shows that you're not confident about it because you're trying to speed it all up.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I was an IELTS examiner for the speaking and writing tests.
Uh-huh.
If you speak too fast,
Enjoy your band 6.
here is your band 6. You talk too fast. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, it's not about speed.
I have to read it at my own pace.
I have to read it at my own pace.
What do you like about that?
If I were teaching her in a classroom, I'd probably let that go. But, you know, she really stressed on, like more of an on instead of an own with that, the English O with the diphthong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so standard with most foreign students that their language doesn't have the diphthong O, so it's always o. But in English, we don't say o ever, really.
Yeah.
I have to read it at my own pace.
Also the two. So the two was the
Yeah,
strong
what's
two
up?
when it should have been the weak two. So it was to read it instead of to read it.
Mm-hmm. Or even, there's so many ways that you can say have to, you can say have to, you can say have the. Like, there's so many ways you can, depending on context, that can come across.
I have to read it at my own pace.
I want to talk pitch.
Okay.
So, I'm going to break this down for you.
Okay.
So I'm getting two thought groups here. I have to read it at my own pace.
Mm-hmm.
Two thought groups, cool. I think something that American English tends to do is that when you have a thought group and then you move on to another thought group, what English tends to do is it tends to shift the pitch a little bit. Like, I have to read it at my own pace, or I have to read it at my own pace. Like, something's going to shift. Because if we use the same pitch register across the thought groups, we're going to end up with something that sounds a little bit flat. I think we can get a lot more movement on this part.
I have to read it at my own pace.
It's like da 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 da. You know, I have to read it at my own pace. So you do go up on pitch on own, which I appreciate, but I think we need to kind of shift the whole group a little bit more. I have to read it at my own pace, or I have to read it at my own pace. You do something like that. It's just going to help you sound so much more dynamic.
But stressing the word own, she put the stress of the sentence in the right place.
The sentence stress itself, I think, is in the right spot, which I appreciate because I think you're aware of stress. You don't have to stress on there. You could just say it at my own pace. You could do that, but you're adding that extra weight onto own, which I appreciate. We want to mix things up with the stress patterns, but also we want to be thinking about pitch, not just for individual words, but for kind of our whole longer sections of speech, because otherwise it's just going to sound a little bit too flat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the monotone speech will sound awkward in some situations and just boring in others.
Yeah.
Because there are English speakers who are very monotone.
Yeah.
And the up and down, that's the song of English. And each language has its own song.
We'll talk about You want to talk about How do you say
I say with an
Yeah.
But British English tends to have more of an
Mm-hmm.
because we tend to, like, American English is closer to the the sound like an up, whereas in British English the schwa, like the schwa,
They have more separation
sound
between like the
is
stress
like, and so that's a lot of students will call American English teachers out. They'll say it's not a dog, it's a dog, because they've been learning British English, and American English speakers really push it lower, you know.
Yeah. I want to talk placement for this. a lot of languages have a lot of the languages they say that, but a lot of languages are also using a placement that's more familiar. This to me feels more like a Spanish I'm up here, man. I'm like versus like versus It's kind of tricky with this because I don't know if the placement is going high because of your schwa sound, your or I don't know if it's going high because of your m. Because you can have like the best sound in the world. It can sound fantastic, but if your placement's going high on your m sound, it's going to shift everything higher. Because it's like versus like do you hear? So it's not just about the sound; it's also about that m. Trying to get maybe a little lower on that.
One thing I like about this is that it shows that on some deeper level, she's internalizing English instead of using a filler word from her first language, or instead of using the wrong filler word, she's at least using the right one. And it would really annoy me if she said, well, as a filler word here. Is a good choice, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the sound of it, the first sound is an English sound that maybe isn't in another language.
No, those little sounds are so important. Just like the sound, like if you get hurt, you say ow. You know, it's like oi.
Exactly.
Like, "Ay," you know, like those little sounds.
If my daughter gets hurt, if she's talking to me, she'll say ow. And if she talks to her mom, she'll say oi. I want to thank Roxana for giving us this video because her English is really, really good. She has a high level of English, and I think it's difficult for some people to put themselves out there. So it was really cool that she let us do this. So thank you so much, Roxana.
Thank you. Yeah, you're doing all the things. Keep it up. It's great that you've even posted this on YouTube. Yeah, keep going.